speaker owned a talent agent for 40 years. And then, with God's grace, he became a changed man. And that changed man took him into a new course, a new mission, where he wants to hold the churches of our community, churches of our country, accountable. And he's done a lot of work in that area, and that's his mission now. So please welcome Dennis Morrison. Dennis.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tea Party, for having me, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here. You know, they said never let them see you sweat, but I think that ship has sailed. There's much to cover, so I want to jump right in. I'm a Christian, so my mission and my message is primarily Christian in nature. And it's geared to the church, but it resonates with conservatives with moral values. I tend to go off tangent, so I'm going to stay on the script here tonight. We're going into very, very troubled times right now. And I think America's in serious, serious trouble. It's in an economic decline and a moral decline, and it's spiraling out of control. This is nothing there's nothing new I'm saying to you. We all know that. But what I'm having here is there's a lack of focus and a lack of a plan. We have a lot of enemies coming at us, and we have no idea how to deal with it. So what I want to do is go over these problems and address them to you and ask, why have we allowed them in? Why are we having these here? Why are they so detrimental to our way of life? And why must we change them? We must lay out a plan of action in order to change our course. Otherwise, we're just talking about it. If we just talk about it, nothing happens and we'll spiral out of control. So we have to develop our plan. Our nation has been founded on the Judeo-Christian values. The 10 Commandments are found everywhere, all over the Capitol, and references to God are everywhere. Of the first 108 colleges and universities in our country, 106 were Christian in nature, including Harvard. It just is stunning that how far we've fallen. Most of these universities are very liberal at this point, and the socialist professors are infecting our children. This too must stop. So what's the problem? I think it's easier for us to say what isn't the problems. The Jews, Israel, small business, families, Christians. Why can't we just all get along? I think the answer to that is when you add in Islam, LBGT, liberals, progressives, then the whole dynamic changes. Their agenda is not our agenda. For over 2 centuries, America has been untouchable. We've had oceans separating us from our enemies on both sides. Our other 2 sides are friendly neighbors. So our military was the best in the world. Our economy was off the charts. But for the last 40, 50 years, say, while we were sleeping, content in our greatness, something was creeping into our government, our media, and our schools. And it's not good. And quite honestly, it's very sinister and evil. Nikita Khrushchev said in 1959, your children's children will live under communism. You Americans are so gullible. No, you won't accept communism outright, but we'll keep feeding you small doses of socialism until you finally wake up and find that you already have communism. We won't have to fight you. We will weaken your economy until you fall like overripe fruit into our hands. Oh, sure, we've had the McCarthy era of people saying better dead than red, but by and large, they're here. You can call them communists, socialists, progressives, liberals, Democrats, but they have a plan. Have you heard of Saul Alinsky? He wrote a number of books. One is Rules for Radicals, How to Create a Social State. He offered 8 levels of control that must be obtained before groups are able to create a different social state. Number 1, healthcare. Control healthcare and you control the people. 2, poverty. Increase poverty levels to as high as possible. The poor people are easier to control and will not fight back if you're providing everything for them to live. 3, debt. Increase the debt to an unsustainable level. Then you're able to increase taxes. This will produce more poverty. 4 is gun control. Remove the ability to defend themselves from the government. That way you're able to create a police state. 5, welfare. Take control of every aspect of their lives, food, housing, and income. 6, education. Take control of what the people read and what they listen to. Take control of the children and what they learn in school. 7, religion. Remove the belief in God from government and schools. 8, class warfare. Divide people into wealthy and poor. This will cause more discontent, and it will be easier to tax or take from the wealthy, but the support of the poor. Does any of this sound familiar? This is exactly what's happening in our country right now. And they're working their plan. Obama is a supporter of Saul Alinsky, and so is Hillary. Bernie Sanders is an open communist. The first thing that has to be done in solving a problem is first to acknowledge that we have a problem. Obama has opened a number of Pandora's boxes, and it's going to be difficult, if not possible, to take everything back in. After listing the plethora of problems that we have and addressing these issues, the final thing is we have to have an action plan in order to eradicate or diminish them. Topping of the list is our debt. It's an unsustainable amount. I had to add $1 trillion into my book when I first started to by the time I ended it. That's a lot of money. You know, when I was talking about abortions, I went from 56 million abortions since Roe v. Wade to 60 million. I don't even know what it is now. Any more than one is too many. Then go on to policies to create moral and political confusion, like open borders so that we have people, we the people, paying illegal aliens school, welfare, and medical, and so on. Who would have even thought of such a diabolical thing? We didn't get to vote on it. Then there's the gay and transgender issues. Sodomy laws have been on the books forever. It was against military law as well. As an aside, in the 1940s, the Navy would use the port of San Francisco as a discharge station for their gay sailors. And in the beginning, they formed their little community, and then it was just leave us alone, if some of you remember that. Then it was tolerance. And we all remember tolerance, and then it was acceptance, and now it's celebration. Well, the Supreme Court sided with them, so they got everything they wanted, so it's done, right? No, not by a long shot. What they want is the complete dismantling of the family unit. Have you heard of Target doing away with the little boys section, little girls sections? Now they have a little kids section. So it's starting. It's starting right now. We're not ready for this, and we need to be ready. So they just have a little kids section. And that's confusion. Then you add to it the transgender issue. Which bathroom do they use? That's more confusion. The author of confusion is Satan. And right now there's a war between God and Satan, and that's what we're fighting in this country. Our media has added a little more swearing, a little more skin, a little more nudity, a little more sex, a little more perverseness. All of a sudden, there's new conversations that parents are having to have with their children on all kinds of subjects in order to keep them safe and sane and morally straight. Then the media adds the gay issue, and every time they talk about gay marriage, you see 2 guys kissing or 2 gals kissing. They can't just talk about gay marriage, they have to show every intimate embrace, every intimate kiss. And this pollutes the minds of America. This is not right. Some people don't mind swearing, the nudity, the gay issue, sex, the killing, gratuitous, vile things. But then there's the children. How do you explain to them the society that has shaken off the restraints of decency? They wonder why Susie got pregnant, why Johnny broke into the neighbor's home, why Jane is now a drug addict, and why Sally's turning tricks to support a baby. And most of their classmates that they know are having affairs. We have to wake up now because we're being fed crap. We're being fed crap little by little, and it affects us. It gets into us, and it gets into our minds. We've had Peyton Place, Days of Our Life, As the World Turns. You listen to the media and those little bits of stuff that's added to it. And then you have in the music industry, and many of those songs that you hear, I mean, they promote the denigration of women. They promote killing cops. And we're having stuff like that all the time. We're having movies right now and TV programs that all of this is influencing us deeply. We have to learn how to take control of this. We aren't in Mayberry anymore. We must gain control of these institutions. All the enemies we have are against the Judeo-Christian moral values, and they want to eliminate our way of life. They also have a plan, and they're executing their plans on us. They are not casually doing this either. They are highly organized. They are motivated. They are highly energized. They are personally committed, and they are committed to one another in their agenda, and they're focused like a laser on their end goals. What they aren't divided. They're not all for themselves individually. They're not goalless, and they darn well sure aren't lethargic. Let us mention some of these enemies. ISIS. Every one of them is committed to their end goals of killing anyone that doesn't believe as they do. They are highly organized, extraordinarily well-funded, and they're having success. They are leaving a trail of death in their wake. And by the way, they're here in America, and they're winning. ISIS has 6 phases of destroying America. There was an incursion in Afghanistan, and they captured some of the Taliban's notes, and so we got some intel on ISIS. And it says they have 6 phases, I believe it is, to destroy America. Phase 1, in 2000 to 2003, is called the Awakening, calls for a major operation against the U.S. to provoke a crusade against Islam. Phase 2, 2004 to 2006, shock and awe. Islamic State will lure U.S. into multiple theaters of war, unending cyber attacks, establishing charities across the Muslim world to support terrorism. Phase 3, 2007 to 2010, Islamic State will create interference with the Iraqi neighboring states, particular focus on Syria. Phase 4, 2010 to 2013, reaping, extortion, receiving. Islamic State will attack U.S. and Western interests to destroy their economy. Phase 5, 2013 to 2016, declaring the caliphate. Not many details are offered here, but the document says the caliphate according to the prophet. In Phase 6, 2017 to 2017, 2017 to 2020, open warfare. Islamic State predicts faith, which is Islam, will clash with non-believers, and Allah will grant the victory to the believers, after which there will be peace on earth. Here's another one. LBGT, which stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Their agenda is the complete breakdown of the family unit. You think all the media attention on gay marriage, transgender, like Caitlyn Jenner, is just a coincidence? No. All of this has been carefully orchestrated, and they've been feeding bits and pieces to the American public for a long time. Most don't really accept it, but there's many who just don't have a moral compass, and they've actually embraced it. They are feeding it to your kids in all kinds of ways, through the Department of Education, in their reading materials, on TV, and billboards, and advertising. Heck, you and your kids will be bombarded in the coming years with so much homosexual information and misinformation, not to mention bisexual behavior. This too will be on the radar, like it's okay. All of this is giving your kids a skewed view of proper biblical sexual relations. LGB is strong, they are organized, they're here, and they're winning. Then there's drug dealers. There's always a curious, willing soul to see what drug or that drug will do for them. In America's wealthy heyday, drug dealers made a killing. As America economically declines, people turn to alcohol and drugs to give them their euphoric state, to keep them from thinking of their desperate situation. These drug cartels are creative. They're intelligent, motivated, highly organized. They're focused like a laser on their end game, and for the most part, they're winning because there's drugs on every corner. Illegal aliens, La Raza and the like. They have our own president on their side. They have attorneys and La Raza all moving him here, keeping him here, and helping them navigate our system so they get all the freebies. When we have illegal aliens getting in on city council jobs and sometimes police jobs, I don't know how they do that, but they're in key sensitive positions. These people are all in, they're motivated, they're organized, they're infiltrated our government, and they are focused on their end goal. They are winning. Now let's move on to communists, socialists, progressives, the Democrats and liberals. They have infiltrated our government at the highest levels and at key positions with an evil ideology that's dead set against the Jews, Israel, Christianity, and the family. They want power and control over American people and our way of life. If you listen to them carefully, they'll let their thoughts out little by little. Like Hillary Clinton said, it takes a village to raise a child. In a socialist state, they take the child and the state raises them. They are then indoctrinated with all of the propaganda they have, then they are set in the state's way. Or Obama says to small businesses, if you've got a business, you didn't build that. So that if you've got a business, then it took a village, and it took a heavily subsidized village to create that venture you're profiting from. I owned a talent agency here in Costa Mesa for about 40 years, and I personally take great umbrage to the statements that I took, because I took no money to get me started or keep me going in business for 40 years. These socialist liberals are creating laws contrary to our biblical moral values and contrary to the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. Mind you, they move slowly so as not to startle or awaken the American people into their real agenda. But we are beginning to feel like something's up. I liken it to like a noose coming over your head. You feel something, you go, what the heck is that? And then all of it goes past your eyes, you go, oh my gosh, and you're starting to be startled and awakened. Then it goes past your nose, and you smell the rope, and you go, why is there a noose going over my head? Now we're asking the right questions. I think Thomas Jefferson said it best. He said, eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. Ladies and gentlemen, we must realize that we are the majority. When we really are angry about something, we do something about it. When Governor Gray Davis was going to raise taxes for drivers, there was a firestorm recall, and he was out. Arnold Schwarzenegger was in. Arnold turned out to be a rhino, but the point needs to be that when the people get angry about something, they awaken out of their slumber and they do something. The liberal state of California is not as liberal as many think, because when Proposition 8 was put on the ballot, which is marriages between a man and a woman, it passed here in California. It was the gay activist liberal judge that overturned it. So they're just winning by attrition. They're just wearing us down. But there can be no quit in us because the stakes are just too high. We can never give up and we can never surrender. When the Democrats took control of Washington, they had the presidency, the House, and the Senate. And we got many bad laws passed, and it's a true abomination. So what did the people do? They rose up again, and they voted. And this time we have a majority in the House and the Senate. Yay, America! But what has really changed? Nothing. We have a corrupt system. My theory, there's a combination of NSA having something on them to keep them in line. You remember the Republicans last time they stood up to Obama, they just shut down the government, and it hurt them. So they're very timid about going up against Obama. Then we have the lobbyists paying big bucks to their clients, which are big corporations and unions, and we have all the carrot and the stick approach for the old boys club. When the liberals win by whatever means, we still can never give up and we can never surrender. Had it not been for Edward Snowden giving America a heads up as to the truth about the NSA, we would have never known the depth of the information they were getting of us without a warrant. He's a true hero. What did he have to sacrifice to let us know? Everything. We have the liberal media publicly shaming people that don't agree with them and the liberal causes. And unless you go to Fox News or a blog or an email, you'll never know the Christian side or the conservative side. The liberal media speaks loudly to much of America. All of a sudden, it's the rebel flag. It's all about hate. The media makes a big deal that all the eyes are on the issue. And of course, immediately, big business like Walmart pulls that item so they don't sell the rebel flag. But what do they sell? They sell the Nazi flag. They sell ISIS flag. Are they not all about hate? Are you kidding me? Where's their focus and why? Our fundamental rights are being desecrated. Truthfully, when the liberals put their issues front and center, they seem right and good until you put them up against the Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights, and many times up against common sense. And then their truth doesn't look so good at all. Mostly it's stinking thinking. What America needs right now is a good education. We need a good education on the Bible, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. I firmly believe every elected official, our military, our police, everybody that has to swear an oath to this Constitution must read the Constitution. I think that's just a given. And if they don't know what's in it, how do you preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic? And so I think that Thomas Jefferson said it best. If we are to guard against ignorance and remain free, it is the responsibility of every American to be informed. How can, how many people here have read the Bible? How many people know the Constitution or the Bill of Rights? I mean, if you don't know your rights, knowledge is power. Without it, we're ignorant and we're subject to anything that they say. Now, with the modern age of electricity, every gadget that uses electricity makes our lives easier, and we have so much leisure time on our hands. So we talk to everybody on the iPhone. We're on texting and tweeting and Facebook and video games. We have all but forgotten what the issues are truly important to us in our American way of life. Our founding fathers were brilliant men and were principled, understanding clearly what freedom meant. The 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. This was no idle pledge. Every one of them knew what was at stake. So I don't want to gloss over what the Founding Fathers went through in order to get us here today. 9 of the signers died of their wounds. 5 were captured or imprisoned. 12 signers, their homes were burned to the ground. 17 signers lost everything they owned. Some of their wives, their children were captured and abused. Amazingly, no signers defected. Their honor, like their country, remained intact. Benjamin Franklin said, "A nation of well-informed men who have been taught to know and prize the rights of which God has given them cannot be enslaved. It is in the region of ignorance that tyranny begins. Let us not remain ignorant." Let us think long and hard about what we're willing to sacrifice for our country and its greatness. Because if you think it through carefully, we find ourselves again in about the very same circumstances our founding fathers did. They had a terrible king over them. We have a president acting like a dictator. The king taxed the living daylights out of them. Our taxes are rising every year through Obamacare, through user fees, energy taxes, and the like. The king told them what religion to be. Our president is moving to censor our pastors. The king had soldiers staying in the colonists' home to see which side they were on. Our president has the NSA listening to every conversation. The king, through his edicts, restricts our freedoms. Our president, through his executive orders and egregious laws, restrict our freedoms. All this is just too similar. Where do we draw the line? When do we wake up and say, enough? The ludicrousness of our situation is even more crazy when it's said back to us by a clear thinker. Ben Stein made this stunning observation. Fathom the hypocrisy of a government that requires every citizen to prove they are insured. But not everyone has to prove they are citizens. And now, any of those who refuse or are unable to prove they are citizens will receive free insurance by those who were forced to buy insurance because they are citizens. I think at this point we need to take a happy pill. This next election is going to be the most important election of our lives. We have a plethora of candidates, but then we have what I call the Trump effect. Here is a candidate that knows the issues. He isn't afraid to clearly stand on the issues. He's bold as a lion, and he won't back down. He won't be shouted down, and he won't be belittled. He's not politically correct, and he won't change his tune depending on what audience is speaking to, which I appreciate. He is saying all the right things, those things we want to hear. But is he right for America? I can tell you this, he is right for America right now. Should he be our next candidate? Truthfully, it's too early to tell. I think it's extraordinarily important that we vet all the candidates thoroughly first to see where they stand on all the issues, and we can make the choice. Most Americans are reactive, but they should be proactive and prudent. When electing a president, we should be doing our due diligence. We seem to be voting like we buy a car. Oh my gosh, that's a shiny paint job of that engine with that throaty rev of the engine, that sleek lines, man, it just feels right, and so we vote. But when we do that, and we drive off the lot with this new president, and the luster comes off that paint job, and that throaty engine roar costs you a little more at the pump than you expected, and the repairs are a little more than your pocketbook can bear, then it doesn't just feel right anymore. We should be electing a president like we're buying a house. We need to check the foundations and check how it's built and does it work for your family needs. It's a much bigger investment. It's funny, I get many surveys from the GOP saying, we really need to hear from you right now because your opinion is extremely important to us. Don't you agree illegal aliens are bad for America? Don't you agree that federal government spends too much money? Oh, bite me. They know just what to say to get the money from us. But the bottom line is when they get elected, they don't follow their own rules. So I think we need to look long and hard as to who we're electing as our next president. We have to know the character of the person we're electing. We like the John Wayne types because they say the right things. They're willing to stand up to evil and enough, no more nonsense, or like Trump would say, you're fired. But this reminds me of a Western movie I saw where Clint Eastwood, who was a gunslinger, ride through town, and there were some bad dudes harassing the people and stealing and destroying. So and he defended them against the bad guys. So the town plied him with all his wishes. He agreed. Of course, he had no morals and he was a bad guy. So what they got was worse than before because he had no morals and they were afraid of him and he took advantage of the town. Ben Franklin said, those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. The point I'm making here is let's not trade one horrible situation for a different, possibly equal as bad situation. Personally, I love hearing Trump say what we're all saying to each other and what we're thinking. But it's very early in the vetting process. I'd like to hear more from the other candidates. I personally want to hear from Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Scott Walker, Ben Carson, and Carly Fiorina. One thing I heard about Ben Carson, he was not for the Second Amendment. I cannot support anyone that doesn't support all my rights. I think we need to know all our rights. We need to scrutinize these candidates because if we're looking at them like a car, because you can't do that, because the freedoms in our future are all at stake. Why is Trump so boisterous, so confident and candid? Because he doesn't have to pander to anyone for money. Other candidates have to campaign and get their message out there. So I believe we need Trump right now to firmly point the way with no mistaking his intent. He is pointing out all the failed policies of Obama administration, and the people are roaring with excitement because no one else has been able to stand up against Obama, the media, and the entire liberal, politically correct crowd. The Democrats in that horde will do anything to get elected. And what that reminds me of is like a third grade student body president. They want to elect somebody. So here's the most smartest, most popular kid in the school, and he's going in, and there's a few people running, but he's leading because he's, the most popular. But little Johnny, his parents and his grandparents asked him to run, so he tried, and he's failing. But he's a crafty one, so the night before the election, he makes up a bunch of signs, and he puts them all up and down the school corridors. And he said, anybody that votes for little Johnny, gets free ice cream. In a landslide victory, he's now the student body. I mean, it's just that silly, but that's what's happening with us. You get the Democrats, and what they're willing to do is you'll have Hillary Clinton say, we'll give you free student loans. You don't have to pay any student loans. Well, actually, who pays for them? We do. Obama would say maybe to the illegals, we'll give you free health care, free welfare, and free schooling. Who pays? We do. Who gets elected? Obama or little Johnny. We have to stand up to this nonsense and educate our people. So we have an education deficit. All this liberal nonsense is killing us financially, it's killing us morally, it's killing us as a nation and as a people. America used to be the melting pot of the world. We were one nation, one people, one language, one flag. We are not one people anymore. We're divided into cultures, many languages, and many flags. So how do we move forward? What's our action plan? It seems Trump and candidates understand the issues, and when we have carefully selected a candidate, we need to wholeheartedly back that candidate. And we must contact every Tea Party affiliate across this land and be in sync. We absolutely do not want to split the vote. We don't want to back a candidate until we completely vetted him. We need to move now into every state and true the vote. Everyone must be a legal citizen of the United States of America, show a valid photo ID. Amnesty aliens must wait at least the time that it would take for them to be a legal citizen, if at all. That's my humble opinion. What we have in America is an education deficit. We are, for the most part, reactive rather than proactive, and we need to be proactive. We need, at this time, to be critical thinkers. The people who take their time and carefully examine the issues of our day and connect the dots will be ready for what is about to take place. Rather than wait for something to happen and react to it, we need to be proactive and ready for it. The ISIS situation, that's coming to us front and center. We need to be ready for that. And the same for our elections and electoral process. We don't spend enough time on really finding out the candidate, because if we did, we for darn well sure would never have elected Obama twice. Who tallies the votes? And do we have to double sure, that these votes are accurate and true. English must be our official language. I would give them 2 years to learn, then all official government-sponsored translations and interpretative classes would end. At the DMV, if you can't read the sign in English, then no driver's license, and so it goes. Again, my humble opinion. If government officials are not keeping their if they're keeping their commitments, then they should be quickly recalled. We can't put up with liars. If you lie to Congress, it's a federal offense. You're going to jail. If they lie to us, it's business as usual. That too has to change. An honest day's pay for an honest day's work. We are all being assaulted at every level, so we need to get good moral people elected at school boards, city councils, board of supervisors, mayors, and so on all the way up. We need good moral men and women at all positions of our government in order to right this ship. I haven't even addressed Common Core, Agenda 21 in the United Nations, because that's a whole separate issue. But we have a lot of issues to address. As an aside, the LGBT movement seems like it's a huge demographic, like it's 3/4 of the American population, but in reality it's very small. So why do they sound so huge? They have the media, they have movie stars, the movie industry, the large corporations, and they make a huge noise, and they are shaping our culture and our thinking. America is like a huge ship being controlled by a small rudder. They are the rudder, and that too has to change. This too can change, but it will take all of us rowing in the same directions, being fully committed. When we make a call to the government officials, send an email, a letter, or go to their office, what we're doing is making a splash in a huge ocean. It's almost meaningless. What we need is all of us in unison making a splash at the same time, in the same direction, in this big ocean. And this will create the tsunami that the government can't ignore. It will be we, the people, have spoken. We need to take back the reins of our government because they have overstepped their authority. They need to represent us, not rule us. At this point, we need the legal American citizens to come up with a strategy to work for us and repel and push back the stinking thinking that's been pushed down our throats for too long. It's time that we push back. At this point, I just want to take a moment, let's just digest what we've just heard. I want to make a point very crystal clear. I am not in any way, shape, or form advocating violence. We can do all this peacefully. I am advocating a movement where we are more like our adversaries. We're clear thinking, highly organized, goal-oriented, motivated, energized, and develop a sense of urgency about the situation because it is dire, and we need to be focused like a laser on our end goals. We need a plan of action. We need to be like the three musketeers and their motto, all for one and one for all. Are we not all Americans? Are we not all affected by ISIS, the illegal aliens, the LBGT agenda, which affects our children? Are we not also affected by the liberals and their political correctness? Of course we are. These problems are on our doorstep now. Therefore, to say we will meet in a week, couple of weeks, a couple of months, then we're not clear on how dire our situation is. In 2 weeks or 2 months, our adversaries are going to be 2 weeks or 2 months more entrenched, more advanced, more solidified in their position. We need the numbers in our army to be much higher than they are now. We need to be talking to our neighbors, our coworkers, our friends, the youth, relatives, our organization buddies, like if you're involved in Elks Lodge, Moose Lodge, talk to everybody. If they're angry, let's enlist their help. If they're not, let's educate them. We need the youth to be involved as it affects them just as much as it affects us. Let's spend some quality time with these people so we can educate them and build our army of conservatives. Let's make the Tea Party more relevant than the Republican Party. Let me just say that again. Let's make the Tea Party more relevant than the Republican Party. Thank you. We can't go off the reservation here in a violent way. It doesn't serve our purposes. It could trigger events I don't want to think about. We talked about remember the Alamo. Well, we have to remember America. We're losing it right now. We should be going the way of Jesus and make disciples of many. Jesus turned the world upside down, and after 2,000 years, his agenda is still making disciples. He has done this in a peaceful way, educating people in the truth. We should be going the way of Dr. Martin Luther King. Dr. Martin Luther King had his peace marches. Freedom was won by his dogged, peaceful determination. Both men gave their lives for their causes, and both succeeded in their quests. In this room, who are we? Are we going to leave here and forget what was said, go about our business, or are we going to be changed deep within us in order to make the difference? The legacy of Jesus Christ is extraordinarily rich. The legacy of Jesus Christ, the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King, and the legacy of our founding fathers will echo through eternity. What will your children and your family say about you? What will America say started in all of us right here in this room tonight? What is your legacy? Thank you.
Dennis, we've got some time for questions.
Sure, I'm ready.
Do you have that on the website?
No, this speech was just prepared for us here. I have my book that I wrote a book. I've got a second book coming out. I'm hoping soon, but I'm not sure when, but soon. Yes. Operation 180, the action plan. We have it in the back here. We have it in the back.
You're selling those today, are you?
Yeah,
You wouldn't sign those with
I could sign them. With this hand, I'll sign it with my,
If you liked what he said, go back and get a book.
yes.
Now, you said that Dr. Ben Carson does not support the Second Amendment.
I heard that he didn't. Please don't, I want to vet all the people. My candidate that I'm for right now is Ted Cruz. That's just who I'm for. I love everything that Trump is talking about, but I think it's going to be hard-pressed to beat Ted Cruz. Some of the other candidates, I still want to listen to what they have to say. They're fascinating, some of them. Yes?
I went to hear Ben Carson yesterday, and I can assure you he's for the Second Amendment.
Is he? Okay, good. Because I like Ben Carson, so I was hoping he was. Yes?
He was interviewed by Glenn Beck
Yes.
at one point, and there was some, I think however he conveyed it, it was misunderstood. That's why there was that confusion
I
about the
understand.
Second Amendment.
There was something, the confusion, it was something about automatic weapons in the ghettos or something, and he was trying to figure out some way to, keep the guns away from the gangs.
Yeah. I think as a doctor, pardon me? Okay, I think as a doctor, I could understand why he wouldn't want to be for the Second Amendment, but I believe that he is, so I'll take it as he is at this point. Yes?
But what I want to say is, you have said practically 99.9% of everything that I am thinking, feeling, fearful of, trying to do between Glenn Beck, Mark Levin, and the people that I listen to. Glenn going strongly with, we got to get back to God, we got to get back to our roots.
Amen.
And Mark Levin, constitutional lawyer, just saying, we're done with the Republican Party. Mitch McConnell did not allow a vote to disallow the Iran treaty today, to speak up against it. So Mitch McConnell is not our friend, and the Republican Party in general is not our friend. And the Tea Party really has to, that's why they hate us. But anyway, so as I listen to all this and I go, I don't want to walk out of here and not do anything. Inside, it's like, besides the Lord, in control of my life, it's turmoil. It's like, how do we get the throngs that are going to be affected by this. Doesn't Mitch McConnell have anyone in his life that's a child that will be affected by the nukes that are going to happen 10 years from now? You know, I mean, we know it's all about money, we know it's all about Cody and the payment and the Chamber of Commerce. It is disgusting. But we can't control that. And how do we do what you're saying? Is that like a committee?
Well, sometimes there's a disconnect. I guess the question is, where do we go from here? How do we make a difference? I think that one of the things that's important is when they're not doing what we need to do, they need to be recalled. Well, we did that with the governor. We can do that with anybody. I think with the president, it's a big problem because he has a executive order where he can declare martial law in peacetime. And if he does that, that does away with all our constitutional rights, Bill of Rights. It does away with everything. So it's a very scary prospect. But I think that we, the people, have to stand up and take our government back. Yes?
The one thing I had a strong reaction to was your characterization of Mr. Snowden as a hero.
I think he's a hero.
I find that objectionable.
Thank you. He's saying that he thinks that my characterization of Edward Snowden is wrong. I think somebody that shows us what our rights are. We are given the rights here in the United States. We're totally free. But we have been corralled and pressed and pushed. And I think when they're taking our rights, which is our freedom of speech, and they're taking it and saying they're able to listen to our private conversations without a court order, I think that's wrong. And they're doing that with everybody at this point. So I characterize him as an absolute hero. Yes?
Why don't, I'm sure Dennis will stick around and answer some more questions, and he'll be back there signing his books, but it is 8:30, and we do need to keep on time. So why don't you give Dennis a big round of applause? He did a great job today. Thank you very much, Dennis.